As a criminal defense attorney, are your clients in a state of shock when you're talking to them? If you don't know, tune in and find out.
You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. As a criminal lawyer, we talk to clients that trust us to help them, and we do this all the time. And we talk to them about possible outcomes. We talk to them about what if I get arrested. We talk to them about what if I go to prison. We talk to them about what if my child goes to prison, or what would happen if I got convicted of this crime and now I'm on the sex offender registration. And so for us as lawyers, and we learned this early on, and we really don't probably sugarcoat it. We're just matter of fact. It's like when the doctor says, you've got 6 months to live. You've got 6 to 12 months to live. And then you ask, well, what kind of condition am I going to be in while my health is deteriorating? And doctors give that information. And we do it too. And also, we're taught early on, and this is something that it comes from cases where somebody pled guilty and they didn't know what the penalty was, so they're claiming that they got this prison sentence and it was procedurally wrong or unfair, because they didn't know what they were stepping into. So if you practice criminal law for any period of time, you know that when somebody goes to plead guilty, the judge tells them, do you know you could get 15 years in prison for this? Has anybody promised you anything? Did your lawyer explain to you that despite the prosecutor's recommendation, that I don't have to follow that recommendation? Do you understand that once you plead guilty and I accept the plea as the judge, you cannot withdraw your plea? So this is hammered into us so that, and I did this in the beginning, which I think is completely wrong, because it's completely misunderstood by the clients and the potential clients. If I'm talking to a potential client, I don't really have to tell them when they're charged with attempted murder that they could go to prison. They already know that. And to them, it doesn't matter if they could go to prison for 10 years or 30 years. It doesn't matter that it might be parole eligible or it may be no parole. It's bad enough, because what they're thinking is they instantly picture themselves, doing that walk, in those prison sandals, carrying their blanket with other people leering at them and threatening them. And it's scary, it's terrifying. So it doesn't matter, that they've got 3 counts that carry 15 years each, and possibly, though this never really ever happens except in extreme cases, they could get 45 years in prison. We've all been in the courtroom where somebody says, do you understand that you could get, 138 years in prison for what you're pleading guilty to, when everything's running concurrent? Okay. And the reason I bring it up is because this is the way we're schooled. This is the way we're taught. We're supposed to have told them everything terrible that could happen to them, but also as lawyers, because we want to cover every possibility and every most extreme case possible that's ever happened since time began, what the worst thing could be is. And so we do this. And in terms of people going into shock, okay, and that's what I call it, and maybe I'm wrong in terms of the psychological thing that it's called, or it's a diagnosis, and maybe there's something that I don't know. But what I'm saying is when somebody goes into shock, okay, and I did this for a long time, and no one ever, all the lawyers I know, all the seminars I went to, all the books I read, all the professors I had, no one ever said that when somebody says, what's going to happen to me? And then I go matter-of-factly, well, the worst case scenario is you could go to get 30 years in prison without parole. Nobody told me the effect that had on somebody. Nobody taught me the effect it has on somebody to be doing whatever they were doing before the police come in, and tackle them and handcuff them and take them and put them in a cage in the back of the car, and in that cage drive them to a bigger cage and take them in and go through this humiliating, demeaning process of being every personal possession they have is taken from them, and now somebody else has those possessions. Complete loss of control. You know how nervous you get when somebody takes your phone. Okay, somebody else has got your wallet, or you forgot your keys. Now all that stuff is gone, and now your clothes are gone, and you're changing clothes in front of a stranger. You're essentially strip searched. Okay, and then you're taken, in those little rubber shower shoes and that jail suit that stinks and doesn't fit, into another room to take your picture, okay, right? And so then fingerprinted and processed and just treated like, I don't know what to call that, but that's going on. And somebody goes through that, they don't know what's happening, they don't know what's going on. They endure the night, maybe they endure 2 nights, then they are herded into a room and they have a bond hearing, the bond is set, and then somehow they're posted bond, somebody helps and they get them out. Now they come to your office at the end of that process where they didn't even go home, and that's just one scenario. The other is when they come into your office after getting over that and they're talking about outcomes. So you get this with the arrest and the night in jail. You get this when you're talking to clients about outcomes of the case. And then the other example I'm aware of, and there may be others, but these are the 3 that I think are there, is when somebody's pleading guilty. So, and I talked about that a little bit earlier. So somebody's standing there with their lawyer, and you think about it, the judge asks a question, and then the client looks at you to answer the question. And they've probably never done that before. They've probably never done that in their life. They probably haven't done that in their office, but they're standing there. The judge is elevated up here, looking down at them. There are people behind them watching. There are people on the sidelines in the courtroom watching, doing their jobs. Okay? There are armed guards, armed police officers, with belly chains and leg shackles and handcuffs. And then there's this clanging lockup door, which is this cage in a cave right outside the courtroom. So they're there, and the judge is asking them these questions. And it finally dawned on me that colloquy of, do you understand your rights? Do you know what you're pleading to? Is this free and voluntary? Has anybody and this is my belief, the person standing there Certainly if they've never been in that situation before. Now, maybe if there's their 15th conviction, maybe it doesn't do the same thing to them. It probably doesn't. But for everybody else, they don't hear a word the judge said. They just have this echo because it's a near-death experience. And when it's over, and sometimes the words the judges use, like you're hereby, sentenced to 5 years in prison, the sentence is suspended to 18 months probation with conditions, blah, blah, blah. So it's a little confusing because somebody says sentenced to, 5 years. And people, non-lawyers that aren't in there, and probation officer, they don't understand any of that lingo. But beyond that, because then lots of times the client who's standing there, their ears are ringing, and they'll ask you, what does that mean? They're not stupid. They're in shock, okay? And I finally learned to recognize this, and nobody told me this. It's just one day it just dawned on me. And I was talking to somebody, and I can't remember, either they had just gotten out of jail and came straight to my office, or in other situations where they were asking me, Greg, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then I say, the worst thing that could happen is, you're not going to get 20 years on this, but the worst thing that could happen is maybe, you could get a range, you might get, the worst thing, not the best, is, 3 to 5, 6 years, something like that. And then I ask them, is your life flashing before your eyes right now? And the first time I ever asked somebody that, they said, yes. And when you're about to die, if you've ever been in that situation where the near death in your life, in an instant, right, flashes before your eyes, I call that shock. And so in these situations, when you're telling somebody something about something terrible could happen, okay, or we're up for trial on your felony case, then when I talk to them, I ask them, is your life flashing before your eyes? They go, yes. So I said, well, let's just take a break, get some water. If it's somebody that just got out of jail, I tell them, here's what I think you should do. I don't want you to make a decision about something as significant as whether or not to pay us to represent you. We've had the discussion. If you have any more questions, we'll answer those questions. But I recommend you go home, take a shower, get something to eat, get some rest, and call me tomorrow or the next day, and we'll meet again. And I think that's the ethical, fair thing to do, because if somebody signs a contract when they're insane or they're drunk, okay, we all know those are issues in terms of the validity of the contract and the consent. And I think that that's something that we face. For whatever reason, no one ever told us any of this. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about briefly is that in terms of, and that part to me that's client care. That's being having empathy and understanding what the clients are going through. And I think that's important. And so there's that aspect of client care. The other thing is when you talk to a client, and this is it could be in the conversion, the intake, the sales meeting, whatever you want to call it, you ask them, you don't tell them about how great you are. You don't tell them that you're the greatest superhero that ever, had a law degree. You ask them, what do you want? Do you want us to get that for you? And how quickly do you need it, basically? Because for this to work with trust, and trust is the key. Trust is the reason people give you money. It's not any other reason. It's because they trust you. Now, for fraudsters and con men, they get conned because they trusted the wrong person, and those people are masters of doing this, and it's something that to be aware of. But if you're really going to help them, and you're not going to steal their money, and you really know what you're doing, and you're really going to move them forward, then it's legitimate, and you deserve the money just like they deserve the help. But you don't want somebody to hard sell you. If you think about working with me here at Prosper at Law, I know the answer. Do you want me to hard sell you? No, you don't. You want to know if I can help you. And so there's some honesty here. Like I was in a coaching program for a number of years, and it changed my life, and it helped me so much. But in that particular program, the leader of that would tell us, a room full of people, because I get what he's doing. He's trying to make the example of how, taking your practice from wherever it is to over $1 million in annual revenues is a simple, mechanized, step-by-step process that none of us had a clue about. But he would make these statements that any one of us in that room could take our law firm over $1 million in 18 months if we just did what he said and if we just implemented that. Now, is that true? I'm not going to say it's not true, and maybe people did it, but I'm not aware of it. But is that possible? Mechanically, yes. Do you have the skill set? Are you able to do it? Could somebody else do it? And I have some strong theories and opinions on that. But some examples I would give you, if you came to me and said, Greg, can you help me grow my law firm by 50%? I would say yes. If you said, Greg, can you take my law firm from $500,000 to $20 million in 12 months? I would say no. Okay? Now, I don't like to put limits on people, but if you ask me that question, because I don't want you to hire me and say, I was making $500,000 when I met you, and now it's 12 months later, and I don't have a $20 million law firm, and you told me I could. So I don't want to be in that situation. Okay? I would tell you what I think you could do. Now, if you said, Greg, can you get me more free time, and can you find where I have an extra 6 hours a week in my work schedule? Can you teach me how to have an extra 6 hours a week? My answer would be yes. Yes. And I may be able to do that. I may be able to do that in 2 conversations, and then you go do it, and it could happen within just a couple of weeks. It's completely possible. Will it happen that fast? I don't know. But can I do it? Yes. So if you ask me that question, the answer is yes. Greg, can you show me how to automate my law firm so I can only work 12 hours a week? And by that, I mean in the office working. I'm saying in the office doing the work that you have to do to make your practice run. Can you show me how to do that? Yes. Yes, I can. Okay? Can you do that for me in 3 months? In other words, if I sign up to, say, one-on-one coaching or join your program, can you show me how to only work in my office, on my law firm, 12 hours a week? Can you teach me so I'm doing that in 3 months? If I had to answer the question, I would say no. It's going to take longer than that because you have all these other pieces where you have to delegate things and you have to have buy-in and you have to have the right people. Now, I don't know how long it'll take. It's going to be longer than 3 months, but I don't know how great your people already are. Okay. I know lawyers who once the lights went off, they already had the people. They just had to change the procedures. because they already had the great people. I don't know what your processes look like yet. I don't know what your people are like. I don't know if you got these D employees lurking around, creating conflicts and sabotaging everything. I don't know. So I'd have to know that. Then I could give you an idea about the timeline. And in terms of taking a business from, say, or just say building from scratch or taking a practice and converting it to a $20 million business, in 18 months. My brother-in-law, I remember, had created this really successful tech company. And I don't know exactly what the revenues were, but they were probably 20 or 30 million. And he loved to play golf. I don't like to play golf, but because he was visiting, I went and played golf. And so out on the golf course talking about it. And this had taken him, I don't know, maybe 15 years to build, somewhere in that time frame. And he had worked for a big tech company, and they spun off some things, and he saw an opportunity. And so he went and formed a company, and then that kind of did some things right and some things wrong. And then some people left, and they formed another company, and then that was problems in there. And then they formed, I think, a third company. And then when things started taking off, he was being threatened with cease and desist for violating what they said was a non-compete. And so he went through all that. So that took 15 years. Now, he was on the verge of selling the company right then. Some things fell through for different reasons. But when I asked him, I said, if you had to build that company again, it was based on everything could you build it again, and how long would it take you? And he's very determined, very successful, very intelligent person. And he looked me in the eye. He goes, this next time I did it, I could do it in 3 years. So, okay, he can build a $20 million company in 3 years. But the difference is he's already done it. Those hundreds and hundreds of mistakes, the bad hire, the bad process, the bad client, the bad this, the bad that, he's already done it. So now he's doing it again. So doing it again, yes. Doing it the first time, can you do it in 18 months? I'm a little skeptical. But take out the timeline, and what you need to know is that it's possible and it can be done. And if you're not doing that, if you want that, because everybody doesn't want it, but if you want that and you're not doing it now, the sooner you get started, the faster you're going to get there. How long will it take? It's different for everybody. Well, that's all for now. Hope this was helpful. Until next time, I'm Greg McCollum, Prosper at Law. Thank you for listening.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatlaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.